I am 83 years old, and I want to tell you something I never thought I would say in my life. My husband passed away 15 years ago. My children, 2 sons and a daughter, are all good people. But they are busy. They visit on holidays, sometimes a birthday. And in between there is silence. Just silence. I lived alone in the same apartment my husband and I bought 40 years ago. Every morning was the same. Wake up, make tea, watch the morning news, sit by the window. The loneliness I felt wasn't a sharp pain anymore. It had become something heavier, a dull fog that settled over everything. I told myself this was simply how the rest of my life would be. I accepted it. Then about a year and a half ago, the apartment next door, Dawah, which had been empty for months, got new tenants, a young couple, perhaps in their late 20s. The woman wore a headscarf. The man had a beard, and I will be completely honest with you, I was uneasy. The news channels I watched every morning had not painted a very kind picture of Muslims. So I made a quiet decision. I would keep to myself. A polite nod in the hallway if necessary. Nothing more, but Fatima made that very difficult. Every single time she saw me, whether she was rushing to work or carrying heavy grocery bags up the stairs, she stopped. She smiled, a real smile, the kind that reaches the eyes. And she would say, "Good morning, Mrs. Margaret. How are you feeling today?" At first I gave short answers, "Fine, thank you," and walked on. But her warmth never changed. It never wavered. Week after week, the same genuine smile. Then winter came. One Tuesday night, there was a particularly heavy snowfall. I woke up worried. I'm not steady on ice. I was thinking about how I would manage to get my bin to the curb. When I opened my front door, Ahmed was outside. He was just finishing shoveling the snow from my walkway. He had cleared my entire path before even starting on his own. I called out to him, "You didn't have to do that, young man." He leaned on his shovel, caught his breath, and smiled. "It's no trouble, Margaret. You shouldn't be out in this ice." And he went back to shoveling. I stood there in the cold for a moment. I didn't know what to do with that. About 6 months after they moved in, I came down with a severe flu. Not just a bad cold. I was bedridden for 3 days. High fever. Weak. I had run out of bread and milk. I called my eldest son to see if he could drop by with a few things. He told me he was in important meetings all day and couldn't make it until the weekend. I lay back on the sofa feeling sorry for myself. And then there was a gentle knock on the door. It was Fatima. She was holding a large container of homemade chicken soup, still steaming, and a bag with oranges and bananas. She said, "We haven't seen you for 2 days, Margaret. We got worried. Ahmed thought you might need something warm." I let her in. She set the food down on the kitchen table, and I started to cry. It was embarrassing, but I was weak, and I was overwhelmed, and something inside me just broke open. I looked at her, and I asked, "Why are you doing this? You hardly know me. My own son is too busy to bring me a loaf of bread. Why are you doing this?" She sat down. She spoke very calmly. "Margaret, in our faith, the neighbor holds a very high status. Our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us repeatedly that we must take care of our neighbors. He said that if your neighbor is hungry, you are not truly a believer if you eat while ignoring them. It is a duty God has placed upon us. We are not doing this for thanks. We are doing it because it is the right thing to do according to our religion." I didn't know what to say. The religion I had seen on television was angry and political. The religion Fatima was describing in my kitchen was something else entirely. It was compassionate. It was rooted in duty to others. These were not the same thing. A few days later, when I was feeling better, I went next door to return the container. I thanked her again, and then I asked her directly, "The way you and Ahmed behave, it doesn't match what I thought I knew about your faith. Could you give me a book to read? I want to understand what makes you act this way." She didn't preach. She didn't lecture. She just nodded, went to her bookshelf, and brought back a copy of the Quran in English. She said, "Read it with an open mind. Start anywhere you like." I took it home, and it sat on my coffee table for a week. Finally, one quiet afternoon, I picked it up. I started with a chapter called Mary. I had grown up in a vaguely Christian environment, and I was stunned to find verses that spoke of Jesus and his mother Mary with immense reverence and honor, the miraculous birth, the infant Jesus speaking in defense of his mother. It was beautiful. It felt familiar, yet completely different. Then I read about God. I had always struggled with the idea of the Trinity, how God could be a man, how one could be three. It had never made logical sense to me, so I had simply parked it in the back of my mind and left it there for decades. But in this book, the message was simple. There is only one God, the Creator. He has no partners, no children. You pray directly to Him. If you make a mistake, you ask God directly for forgiveness. You don't need an intermediary. You don't need a priest in a confessional booth. That idea, the oneness of God, struck something deep inside me. It felt like something I had always known instinctively, but had never had the words for. It satisfied my mind, and it settled my heart in a way nothing in my 82 years ever had. I continued reading for months, and I watched Fatima and Ahmed more closely. I saw them stop whatever they were doing when it was time to pray. I watched how they washed themselves beforehand. And the thing that stayed with me the most, the thing I thought about for a long time, was the prostration. The moment they placed their foreheads on the ground, a human being with all their pride and ego, placing the highest part of their body, their intellect, on the floor, in complete submission to the Creator. It was the ultimate act of humility, and I realized I had never, not once in 82 years, truly humbled myself before God. A full year passed. One evening in late autumn, I was sitting in my armchair in the silence of my apartment, and a feeling washed over me, not a fear of death. At my age, you make your peace with that. It was something different. It was a fear of meeting God in my current state. Because I knew the truth now, I could feel it. But I had not yet said it out loud. I did not want to wait any longer. I knocked on Fatima's door that evening. She opened it, and I looked at her and said, "I think I'm ready. I think I believe. What do I do?" She took my hands, and she smiled, that same smile that reaches the eyes. And she said, "You just say it, Margaret, that's all. You just say it." So I did. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. I was 83 years old, and for the first time in my life, the fog lifted.